Hey, what's going on, beautiful souls? This is Peter Clark Nelson, and I want to welcome you to a new episode of the New Earth Leaders podcast. As you know, this is the podcast that takes you on a multi-dimensional journey and shows you how to consciously and joyously embody self-love, self-empowerment, and self-governance. And as you heard in the introduction, I am joined by one of my dear friends who is the author of the book, Waking Up in the Dream, Jeff Cloud. Jeff, how's it going?
It's going wonderful. I'm honored to be here. Always good when we get together. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. We're going to have some fun. And so for those of you who have not yet been introduced to Jeff outside of this episode, get ready for a journey. And I mean, seriously, I know a lot of people listen to podcasts and multitasking. If you can, sit down, grab tea, coffee, your favorite beverage, whatever. Get a pen, a journal, or get your notes in your phone ready, because you will definitely want to be taking some notes during this interview. And it's pretty likely a good guarantee that you're going to go back and re-listen to this multiple times, because there are layers to the multidimensional wisdom that Jeff is going to share with you. He is not only one of my personal mentors and somebody that I have learned and gleaned so much from over the years, but he is also a master guitarist. So I bring that up because we're about to fucking jam, or at least I know Jeff is. So Jeff, let's have some fun. Let's get things started with, of all the things that you have accomplished and created and journeyed through in your life, at this point in time, what are you most passionate about? In other words, like, what lights you up? What makes your heart sing?
Wow. So much energy running right now. I just have to pause for a second before I answer that question and say thank you for such an incredible introduction. I mean, just listening to those words is like going back 20 or 30 years ago. I would have never even thought that those words would be directed towards me in any way, shape, or form. Some people that may have followed me, and I don't even like that word because, you know, we're not followers, we're all connected to each other. But, you know, there were times in my life when I was suicidal and ready to check out, just wondering why things were the way they were in this world. And it took a while for me to uncover what I believe is my soul's journey, and that I had chosen to go through all the things that I chose to go through in my childhood. And so to hear you say those words, first of all, you're an amazing person and a wonderful friend. But to hear that is like, I just want to share with people, it's like the ego comes in and it wants to go, wow, that feels really good. And then the other part of the ego comes in and goes, you couldn't be that good. And it's this dance of these, what my original mentor, Don Miguel Ruiz, would say, the voices in the mind. And it's just so interesting as you introduce me to sit there and watch the feelings and the responses of myself and all the programs that, you know, most of us are constantly running. So I want to bring that up because it's very important, because what I'm really passionate about, as you know of, is conscious awareness. It's the only game in town, as I say. There's nothing, I mean, besides, playing guitar and going out in nature and, you know, being in a wonderful conversation with people, loving on people, doing your passion. It's really, it's everything. It's like, what are we thinking in every moment? What drives those thoughts? Where do those thoughts come from? What do we believe about ourselves? What do we feel about ourselves? And so this was, I guess, my opening savior, so to speak, when I met Don Miguel Ruiz in 2001 in San Diego. And he didn't teach me how to do the process that I guide people through in the book and in the course that I do. But the one thing that he got me to look at, which changed everything, was he got me to look at my belief system and how those stories run. And it was literally mind blowing. It was like, that changed everything for me. And it continues to this day. It's like, what are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What are my emotions? And learning how to tune into that and really feel what is driving you. Where did that come from? And so my attempt at sharing some tools of diving into that is one of my passions. And with your beautiful guidance, we'll dive into that a little bit deeper, because I come into this not really wanting to say the same thing I say every time, but to just be an open channel and just share in the best passionate way that I can these tools or realizations or concepts from going down the rabbit hole and studying, that really, they create our reality, whether we're aware of it or not. And to me, for as long as I'm still here, another 100 years or another 10,000 years, whatever that plays out to be, with our unlimited consciousness and our ability to really consciously create our reality, this is just, this is a place to go, or one of them for sure. And so if you have any questions,
no, that was it, man. That was the only question. I want to thank everybody for tuning into the episode. Enjoy. No, just kidding, man. Yeah, it's always an honor just to commune with you. I mean, you and I have had endless number of conversations over several years, and a few of those have been recorded for public distribution. And, you know, you've been a part of my previous podcasts as well as some Facebook Live series. And, you know, as I was just saying, you are not only a dear friend of mine, you're somebody who's been a mentor to me, because the wisdom that I've been fortunate to glean in our exchanges and journeys has been positively life transforming. And I don't use those words lightly. And that's what we're going to dive into here today. All of your wisdom and what you do and how you are so beautifully guiding and mentoring and facilitating sacred and safe space for other beautiful souls to move beyond the illusionary confines and imprisonment of the 3D matrix. And, you know, there's a lot of ways to talk about that. And for you, you have taken what is an incredibly complex set of topics. And I say they're complex because of the layers that are involved in them. Now, you have just mastered this energy to the extent that you can share this information and distill it, not only passionately, but where it's palatable for people, where it's, oh, okay, I don't have to go completely down a rabbit hole to figure this out. Here's what Jeff shared. And one of the things that I have known you for, and I know a lot of other people know you for this as well, is that you don't waste time with unnecessary stories and bullshit. You just get right to the heart of the solution by identifying the source of the problem, if you will. And you just kind of alluded to that in terms of where your passion is. So I know there's a lot we're going to cover here today, but let's just, you know, sort of start diving into some of this by looking at the 3 essential keys that people can be aware of and utilize to move beyond the 3D matrix.
Okay. Thank you again so much for that. I'd like to preface my next statements with the truth that I know nothing. I am seeking and searching just like everybody else. One of the things that so many people do is they end up developing a belief system starting at a very early age, and they end up reacting and defending to anything that either challenges that belief system or it triggers any childhood wound that they may have. And this is the number one thing that keeps people stuck in repeating timelines in what we would call the lower dimensional 3D matrix. And so what I've come to realize that works for me and a lot of other people is tuning in very closely to the frequency and the vibration of each thought, each word, and the emotional energy that we put behind them. Because we are emotional beings, everything is energy. But there is a huge, huge life-changing difference between becoming a conscious observer as opposed to being what I call in the book an automatic reactor. And an automatic reactor, they don't come from a bad place. It's not intentional. It's just that they believe that they're right only because they feel an emotional trigger response to whatever information comes in that either challenges their belief system, which the ego mind, which is not bad, it's just an energy system. We don't need to kill the ego. I used to think we need to kill the ego. And you know, that's not, from my experience, that's not really what is going on. What the invitation is to understand with a higher level of awareness that the ego is nothing more than an energy that reacts to the information, frequencies, and vibration that it receives. Nothing more. The interesting thing is that when we were created, or when we were dropped into this 3D timeline, whatever you want to call it, we had to have a survival mechanism to keep us safe. And so that still seems to be a part of our genetic makeup. That's the one part that I'm working on right now. And next week, I'm going to release my new antidote for that for 1995. And everybody will be able to get that on my website. But seriously, if we did not have this fear-based reaction, and I intend that moving forward, we will remove this, because fear, judgment, guilt, shame, all these lower vibrational frequencies do not exist in the higher dimensions. 5D, 12, I don't know how many Ds there are. I know nothing, but I can feel what a frequency feels like. I can feel it in my body. And so the process that I set up for myself is a process of tracking the vibration and the frequency of my thoughts, my words, and the emotion that I put behind them. And so I broke that down into 3 steps for the process of the waking up in the dream book, or just for the process of, you know, awakening and really being present and consciously creating our reality. Because we are creating our reality in every moment, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. The thing is that so many of us, there's so many distractions going on that we're just running on autopilot, recycling the same 50 to 80,000 thoughts each day over and over and over. And that's how the matrix was set up, to distract in a way. But when we can come back to this, I guess a cool term is 0 point, to where we are the conscious observer. And we're going, okay, let me take a breath and slow down. What am I feeling right now? What am I creating right now in this moment? Am I aware of that? Because I'm creating my reality and my timelines, whether I'm aware of it or not. So, what is creating my reality? Is it random? Or am I really creating this with my thoughts and my words and the emotional frequency that I have behind that? So, the best way I can explain it in simplified terms is we are magnetic beings. This has been talked about for as long as, I guess, history or science has been around. Everybody is holding a frequency. And again, that frequency is created through our thoughts, our words, our beliefs, and our feelings. So if we're going to be a magnet that attracts more love, more abundance, more goodness, more magic, anything else that we desire, we have to be aligned with that frequency. And so what I learned is through studying with my teacher and unraveling the belief system and watching how the ego mind would respond to anything that challenged my belief system or anything that touched on a wound that happened to me when I was a child, was the only way to move beyond the 3D matrix is to heal those things that we are not, how can I say it? That are not coming from the higher frequencies. Love, gratitude, excitement, that one, my favorite word, the highest frequency. And if we do not heal anything that happened to us when we were younger, it will repeat over and over and over and over, because one of the beautiful things about the soul's journey and one of the frustrating things from the ego's perspective is the stuff keeps showing up again over and over until you clear it or get the lesson. So how do we clear that in the shortest amount of time possible? We track it. We get committed to tuning in to our inner self, our thoughts and our feelings, and we ask, is there anything that I'm still holding on to that I'm being invited to let go of? And this is really key. And some people don't want to go there because it's scary to them. But self-healing and inner healing, from my experience, is one of the easiest things to do ever, if you're just willing to do it. And in some cases, you have somebody that can just guide you through it. The wound has been protected for many, many years. And it has put up this wall of protection where it doesn't want anybody to go, based on the memory of what happened maybe 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. It's just a story. It may have been awful. It may have been really bad. But the thing to understand is, from a higher perspective with awareness, is that this was all part of our soul's journey. We chose this on our soul contract. And maybe not everybody's going to be open to that. But for me personally, that was the key. For me to come back and ask, anytime I was in pain, anytime I was triggered, anytime I was in judgment, to come back and ask, what is this trying to show me about me? What is this trying to show me about me? My mentor, Don Miguel Ruiz, told me in 2001 or 2002, he said, everybody is you. Everybody is you. And I was like, what? What? even the bad people, everybody is you. And that's a very interesting concept to even attempt to wrap your head around, because those things that you don't like, such as bad people or people that are harming children or the planet or whatever, you're going to go, that's not me. But on a soul journey, one has to be open to the fact that you're everything. And so the three pieces that I came up with to keep it simplified when I take people through this journey, number one is inner healing. It must be done. There's no way around it. You can't fake it. You can't go to enough webinars and seminars and light festivals. You can't change your name to, Jenny Lightflower. You can't do it. The only way out, so to speak, and it's really the way in, but it's just going in and dealing with it and going, okay, I'm pissed. If that's the case, this sucks. This happened to me. I don't like it. And those thoughts and those feelings hold emotions. So if you're pissed, you don't like it, whatever your father did to you, whatever happened to you when you were younger, if those frequencies are not cleared, they are part of your magnetic makeup. And we spoke earlier about every single person being a magnet, attracting their timelines to them. From what I've discovered, it's true. If you focus on higher frequency thoughts, energies, and you go in and do the inner healing, what you will attract into your reality will seem like magic, but it's not magic. It's not miracles. It's your frequency. It's you creating your reality. And so we have so many distractions in the 3D world that are like brilliantly, next level brilliant, set up to distract us. The television, the media, advertising, you need this, you need that. If we don't have a set of tools to begin each day, every single day, consciously setting our intention and creating our reality, then what's going to happen? Well, those 50 to 80,000 thoughts that are running underneath the surface every day, they're going to take over, because that's how energy works. We are thinking creative beings. And if we don't program our hearts and our minds and understand that we truly are creating our reality, then it'll just run on autopilot. And this is what happens to, that was the story of my life. I mean, that was the journey. So that was a lot. I'm going to stop right there. I could go on, but do you have any questions?
Well, first, I just want to acknowledge and just honor you for the depth of the wisdom that you're sharing. And I know there's a lot for us to get into. I do want to, just for people that are, taking notes, or they're listening to this maybe for the second or third time, because I know a lot of people go through the episodes on New Earth Leaders and they re-listen to them because of the depth of the wisdom from the guest, such as yourself. So I do want to honor the 3 essential keys. So you mentioned one of them. I think you mentioned all of them, but it wasn't, I want to make sure it's really clear to those who are journeying with this. Okay. So I've got the first one is inner healing. Just real quickly, what's the second and third essential keys for moving beyond the 3D matrix?
Okay. Thank you for that. I love going deep and I love to explain it. I do my best to give everybody the entire download, as you know, and that's just my mind and my passion. But the first part, complete inner healing. You got to do it. And before I go on to the second piece, many people might go, well, I don't know how to do inner healing. How do you do that? Because what happens is we end up doing the best we can every day, and we've got to survive in life or get up and do whatever we are invited to do each day. So if you don't know that you have a wound, or if nobody's ever taught you how to go in and track your frequencies, then you don't know how to do it. So one of the greatest keys that will cover, I would say 90% of anything that needs to be healed, is to ask yourself, is there anybody that I need to forgive? Is there anyone in my thought field, my memories? You may have past life memories. I don't currently, but is there anyone that I need to forgive, including especially myself? If you were to just do this one exercise and write this down on paper and get real honest with yourself, your memory will easily bring up anybody that needs to be forgiven, including yourself. Because the beauty of it is there's a frequency attached to that memory or that story or that event. So it's still there. And the key is to thank everyone for playing their role on your soul contract journey. Now, this can be a tough one if you've been sexually molested or something like that, which I journey with a lot of people like that. So I don't want to trigger anybody and say you must thank somebody if they really abused you. But I invite everybody to be open just to be able to clear the energy that quite possibly, if we've lived thousands of lifetimes, that we might have done that to somebody else in a past life. And we don't know. And so it's really, really essential to clear. And you'll know if you've forgiven everyone by when you can think of them, you can just smile and be neutral. Like you can think about the event and you're just like, that was part of my soul's journey. And I'm clear of that right now. I let that go. Now, that's huge, huge, huge. So the second piece is looking at your belief system and realizing that it's not even yours. When my mentor got me to look at my belief system, that was probably one of the most mind-blowing and mind-expanding aha moments of my entire journey. I was like, oh my God, everything I believe came from outside of me. Everything came from my parents, my grandparents, school. I was in Catholic schools all my life. The brainwashing was incredible. And the media and history and science, which is all, for the most part, so much of it's turning out to be inverted mistruths to keep us, for lack of a better word, stuck. And the hero's journey is to go, okay, all right, I got something for you. I'm going to question every single thing, and I'm not going to hold on to anything. I don't need to be attached to anything. I do keep a couple beliefs, and one of them is love is the answer in every situation. And my other belief is that I am an unlimited, sovereign, divine, multidimensional being. Can I prove that? Not really. It's just something that my inner self chooses to tap into. Because when I come back to the statement that I said at the beginning of this interview, I know nothing, that's a very powerful place of 0 point to operate in. I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to convince anybody. And my ego doesn't need to hold on to anything to control, because control is fake. You're not in control of anything. You're just flowing. You're in this amazing, incredible journey that you get to create whatever it is that you focus on and give your energy to. And we've been so conditioned to be basically stuck in like nursery school. People walk around, including myself, and go, oh, we're awake. We're awake. Being awake doesn't mean that you realize your whole belief system isn't even yours. That's just scratching the surface with the tiny tip of a pin. There is so much more beyond where we're going, that this is the whole fascinating journey. And so when we begin to dismantle our belief system, which must be done, you'll never, ever get out of the 3D matrix if you have to defend your beliefs. And that's kind of a tricky statement, because you could go, well, I defend love and I defend the rights of children. Yeah, me too. I'm talking about seeing the program of how the mind has this built-in program to feel safe and to feel good enough and to feel worthy and to feel okay with myself. And the key is to just get naked and just go, I don't know anything. I'm going to show up in my heart in every conversation with every single person that I meet, and I'm going to be authentic, and I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to say how I feel, and I'm not going to raise my voice ever, because that's the ego's defense system needing to be right. That's a triggered emotion. And I'm going to learn to track the frequency of my thoughts and my words and my emotions. And when you commit to doing this, which is what the process in the book takes you through, very simply, step by step, you will begin to have aha moments that go, oh my God. Oh my God. You'll look around and you'll see that so many people are trained to be automatic reactors and defenders. And that the 3D matrix is set up to perfectly trigger and give everybody all of the ammunition that they could ever want to disagree, to judge, to, disagree, judge, and to be separate. And so this is a journey of moving from the head to the heart. And this has been told throughout lifetimes, and it really is the key. But I was never able to do it until I figured out that my belief system wasn't even mine, and I was running around being an automatic reactor. I was a judgeaholic. I wrote a whole chapter in my book on judgment because it's the biggest addiction on the planet. Look at what you judge and see if there's an energy attached to it. Yeah, I can't stand this. It's a trap. It's a total 3D recycling washing machine. Judgments must be removed. You must see everyone as your greatest teacher, especially those that we judge, and thank them. And the only way that one will ever be able to do this is when they commit and they learn to track the frequency of a thought and an emotion. Because at first, again, the ego will tell you, I'm right. This is a big one. If you don't get anything else from this talk, this one is huge. Why do people believe that they're right? Simply because they have an emotional trigger, which is energy, which triggers one of their beliefs or a childhood wound, and they have a reaction and they say, I'm right. No, you're not right. You just had an emotional reaction. That's all. But if you don't catch it, you're going to recycle that same emotional reaction over and over and over and over. And you will see it show up in all of your relationships. And so this is super, super key. And it's really, really easy to do, to begin to track your judgments and your reactions. It's night and day what it will create in your reality when you become the conscious observer as opposed to being a justified automatic reactor. So I think that covers that pretty decent. I'm just talking to myself.
Oh,
Everything
I'm journeying with you every step of the way, obviously, as well as all of the beautiful souls that are tapping into the energy stream of this incredible episode. I do want to go back to the 3 steps. All right, because we haven't gotten to 3 yet. And I just want to make sure that people understand what that third one is. So there's a lot of things I want to explore and unpack with what you just said. But before we do, so step 1, inner healing. Step 2, recognize and identify that your belief system is not yours. And Jeff, you did an amazing job of just detailing that. So what is step 3?
Step 3 is, since we are creating our reality in every single moment, to become 100% consciously aware of that fact. And now, because life has so many different facets, and one minute we're out in nature, the next minute we might be connecting with a friend, the next minute we're playing music or with an animal, we're not going to be actually consciously tracking every single thought that we have. But the beauty of the tools and the process is that when you train yourself to be consciously aware of the frequency that you are holding, the frequency and vibration, which always comes from the heart and playfulness, then you will be able to tune in and you'll have an awareness if you're going to a place that is not something that you desire more of. In other words, if we're not aware that we're heading into a story about what this person did to me or how the government, the energy behind that, the emotional frequency will fuel that story if we don't have the conscious awareness to feel what I would call the stickiness of low vibrational thoughts or emotions. They have a stickiness to them. They lower your frequency. You can feel it. And so the third part is to consciously create your reality every single day and throughout the day. And I take people through a process where they commit every single morning to consciously creating their day and their reality as soon as they awaken from what we call the sleeping dream. In other words, they just realized they woke up, their head is still on the pillow, and before they even think one other thought, they immediately train themselves to go into conscious breathing. And they just smile. And the first thing that I invite them to do is to love on every single one of the trillions of cells in their body that have been consciously and unconditionally loving them since they've been in the womb. Most people don't think about this. I never used to think about this. I'm like, yeah, I love my body. My body's cool. I never used to go, oh my God, my body's been through accidents, drug abuse, alcohol, self-harm, self-judgments over and over and over, hatred. I mean, every emotional frequency you can think of. And yet every single time my body is healed, it has loved me. It has done nothing but served me over and over and over. And so when we do this first thing in the morning, and the reason why it's essential to do it immediately while your head is still on the pillow is because if we don't, then those 50 to 80,000 thoughts are just going to start running automatically over and over and over. I got to get up. I got to put on a pot of coffee. I got to get the kids ready to school. I got to go to work. I only got 50. It just runs. It runs because that's what energy does. So we're in this incredible matrix of possibilities, unlimited possibilities. And we're being given the opportunity right now at this most exciting time in history that I know of. And again, I don't know anything. I don't remember past lives or anything like that. I'm just tuning into the energies that are coming into the planet, the amount of people that are waking up, the amount of people that are going, the systems are broken. They've been stacked against us. what is my number one invitation? My number one invitation is to be aware of what I am giving energy to in this moment, because I am a magnet. And whatever I am giving energy to right now, I am magnetizing more of. That could have been the whole topic right there. I could have just saved everybody 45 minutes.
Well, here's the thing that I absolutely love about you. And one of the reasons, one of the primary reasons that I was guided and I accepted the guidance and invitation to put together the New Earth Leaders podcast is that, one, we are entering into the most exciting and incredible time in the history of humanity as far as we know it to be. The world that we were educated, trained, raised, and indoctrinated into, as you pointed out near the beginning of this journey today, is that it's an inverted reality. So whatever a person that if you're journeying with us, in whatever you may judge in the outside world as fucked up and misaligned with the energy and vibration of love, think about the mechanics and the education and the implementation that is utilized to sustain a cannibalistic society, generational genocide. Every generation, literally and figuratively, kills itself. How does that happen? With all the information that we are aware of, with all of the calamities and crazy shit that has occurred in our particular lifetime that we can point to, whether you want to call it fake news or not, false flags or not, we can look at certain things and go, A, how did that happen? And B, what are we going to do about it? And yet it just keeps repeating. Now, I'm saying this because two of the primary reasons I started this podcast is because we live in an inverted reality that is going back into alignment. And that is creating some incredibly uncomfortable experiences for a great number of people, because the things that we used to attach our sense of self-worth and safety and fulfillment to is rapidly dissolving. So for those beautiful souls that have been on the path of consciousness for an extended period of time, you're quite aware of a lot of what Jeff is talking about. But we need reflections. It is an essential component to our continued evolution that we realize we're not alone, that we don't have to suffer in isolation anymore. We don't have to succeed in obscurity. So with this kind of a podcast, you're getting the opportunity to listen to and to feel into beautiful souls who have gone beyond the intellectualization of consciousness, self-love, self-empowerment, and self-governance, and they are consciously and joyously embodying it. Doesn't mean they don't have challenges. I know, Jeff, I mean, we've talked before, both of us. I mean, we still experience some a little bit of jarring in our day-to-day routine at times, but we're not bypassing it by thinking that because we know something that we really embody it. So to have people like you that can reflect that is incredibly essential. And the other part of it is that through that reflection, we're hearing things, we're feeling into things that we may have read about, we may have taken courses on, we may have been, for a lot of people who are recognizing themselves as New Earth leaders, your entire business might be predicated around a lot of the topics Jeff is saying. And yet the way Jeff is articulating it at this precise moment is connecting with your heart and unlocking something in your operating system that's creating a potentially profound breakthrough at a precise moment of your journey, like a set of codes that are used to unlock and access very important information. So I'm saying all of this because, yes, we could just have a podcast and an episode that says self-love, self-empowerment, self-governance, recognize your thoughts, do the inner healing, Realize that your belief systems are not your own. And by the way, once you realize that, now you've got to consciously be aware of your frequency and vibration and where your thoughts and energies are going to. Okay, that all sounds great. But without context, we're fucked. Without context, we're running in a circle and literally dropping dead from pure exhaustion of achieving something that we thought was monumental, only to realize that it didn't fulfill a void. That is why a podcast like this and what New Earth leaders truly do that are very, very different than the previous so-called descriptions of leaders in the old world. They embody. They don't just intellectually talk about it. Number two, they provide context. They're not a fucking soundbite. I mean, if you really think about how humanity has been continuously hoodwinked and completely bamboozled every single generation and led astray from their true north essence, their true divinity, it's because you hear these great little sound bites that actually resonate with your soul, which is what they're designed to do, with zero context behind them. So you end up getting taken down a path that looks good at the beginning, but it's a nightmare. So context is really crucial. I wanted to say all of that, Jeff, because one of the things that I just deeply admire and respect and love about you is you get into the context. Okay, so you had 3 keys that are essential to moving beyond the 3D matrix. And you mentioned them in a myriad of different ways with layers of context behind it. And I truly appreciate you doing that. That's why, even though you and I always joke, like, you're like, and I don't know what to say on this particular episode. I'm going to say the same thing. And I'm like, I hope you do say the same thing, because repetition and redundancy are not luxuries for people who have time to listen and read things over and over again. They are absolutely 100% essential in a time frame in this world where the word essential has been completely maligned and thrown out of whack and distorted. One of the most essential components of consciousness that you're talking about, Jeff, is redundancy. That's why I said before, a lot of the people who journey on this podcast and listen to and tune in, they're New Earth leaders. But I learned something from you every time that I've already heard. How many times have we had conversations? I hear the same thing, but it's more, there's another layer to it that just lights me up. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, yeah, I have more context to that than I did 3 years ago or 2 years ago or 1 year ago when I heard it for the 24th or 30th time. So I really honor you for the way you personify truth. Truth doesn't need to change because it's the truth. You might inflect something, a different story around it, but you say what you need to say because it's an essential piece to playing the game of consciousness and doing it from the heart. So there's a couple of questions I want to ask you in addition to what you've shared. And I'm going to pose both questions, and I'll just give it to you to however you feel guided to build on them. So one of the most important things that I have learned from you, and this actually went back to one of our very first conversations, and it is a key component to your book, Waking Up in the Dream, which, by the way, for those of you who have not purchased this book or you're just now hearing about Jeff, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Jeff's website. The links are in the description area for this episode. And we'll get to that more in just a little bit. But I just want to make sure I say that because it's important. If you haven't had access to this book, by all means, get access to it. Because one of the things that I learned from this is the 5 most important words that will literally transform every single life experience. And this dovetails back to what you were saying earlier, Jeff, about step number 1 or the first key, which was inner healing. You said one of the key pieces is to forgive everyone, including and most importantly yourself, and to thank them for the experiences. Now, as you said, and I'm really glad you said this, you couch it by saying, look, if you've been through a traumatic experience, you've been raped, you've been abused, once or more than once, how do you forgive someone for that? How do you thank them for that? Well, it's a challenge, but these 5 words that I've learned from you, this profoundly changed my life. And I know I've said it before. What is the gift here? So I want to frame that by asking my first question. I'm going to segue into the second one here, and then you can just kind of take it and flow with it. How have you applied those 5 words in your personal experience? And then that goes into the next thing, which you talked about in the third key. One of the things that you framed it by was discussing judgment, judgeaholic, right? And part of it is tracking your judgments, identifying the energy that's attached to them. And this is observing your thoughts. So let's talk a little bit about how you've used those 5 words. What is the gift here to transform your life in very specific situations that for a lot of people would be like, I don't know if I could have done that, but you can. And then what are some techniques or some suggestions that you can share for how people can be more adept at slowing things down and observing and tracking their thoughts and the energy that's attached to them?
Wow, that was a lot. I should be interviewing you.
No, not at all, man. I'm just reflecting back to you, buddy.
You bring so much depth and insight to the conversation, and I know I've talked like the 99% of this whole interview, but
as well you should, man. It's your episode. This ain't mine.
I enjoy listening more than hearing me speak. I hear myself speak all day long, but I'm honored for this. And so the way that you frame things and kind of mirror them back is equally as powerful to anything I've said, because you mirror it back with a different perspective than what I actually said. And it gives the listener another facet of how to look at it. And so it's super, super valuable. That, to me, conscious conversations are the most valuable thing on the planet, other than just sitting there and, oming to yourself or whatever. I mean, this is why there's more than one person on the planet, so that we can interact with our mirrors, our other selves. And so I don't know how I came up with what is the gift here. If I want to really be honest, I can probably just say that I was forced to do it, because it was either that or self-destruct. When I learned that every single thought, word, feeling, emotion is a frequency, then it became clear to me that if I'm holding on to anything that's lower vibrational, resistant, judgmental, angry, unforgiving, less than, shameful, guilt, doubt, that my magnet is vibrating like a neon sign. And what do magnets do? They attract like frequencies, energies, and timelines. They don't even have to try. You don't even have to program it. It's already programmed. And so what is the gift here became my get out of hell card. I won't say get out of hell free card, but I don't know if it's free, but it's a choice. And so when I realized that anything that I was still holding on to against myself or anybody else would attract another situation that would perfectly mirror back to me those frequencies that I was holding within. And so then the light bulb just kept going off. It's like, oh, everything's a mirror. Everything's a mirror. So whenever we have a judgment, which is the biggest addiction on the planet, if people would just focus on eliminating judgments, and the process in the book takes you through it. You get a clicker, you're tracking your thoughts all day long, and then you write it down every night on a PDF sheet. It takes you 2 minutes, and you start to see programs that almost everybody is running, but they're justifying them instead of going, oh, isn't that interesting that my ego is automatically reacting, judging, and defending over and over and over? Where did that come from? Well, it doesn't matter where it came from. It's that you're doing it and you're magnetizing your inner magnet to attract more of that. Every judgment is attracting more of what we judge to us. And if everybody on the planet did nothing else but were given the assignment of remove all judgments, it would shift their life into another reality. They'd be like, oh my God, somewhere in my intuition, I knew that it could be this good. I had a deep remembering, but here it is. And so this is where we're going, because judgments, shame, guilt, the lower vibrational frequencies, again, they don't exist outside of 3D. They can't, because they are not a frequency that comes from love. And so what is the gift here? If people that were listening to this did nothing else but write down those 5 words, and they carry it on a sticky, or they get it tattooed in reverse on their forehead, so when they look in the mirror, it will change their life and their lifetimes unequivocally. What is the gift here? To say it another way, what is this trying to show me or teach me about energies or frequencies that I am holding? And when we begin to train ourselves and commit to feeling the frequency of every thought, every word, and emotion, instead of reacting to it, every single thing in our reality changes. Everything. And so writing that down, what is the gift here? And then another great life-changing tool is set 20 alarms on your phone every day to go off every hour. I have everybody that I journey with do this. It's mandatory. Mandatory, that's a really strong word, but you got to do it. And if you don't want to do it, oh, I don't really need to do that. Yeah, right. Your ego is just tricking you, because it's brilliant. The ego is so brilliant in its excuses and its programs. And this process is the process of deprogramming those automatic reactive things. So set 20 alarms on your phone, 10:22, 11:33, 1:44, 2:22, and have them go off every hour. And when they go off, take a moment to take a breath. And if you really want to be amazing, breathe in and smile and love on every one of those trillions of cells that are loving you unconditionally in every single moment. And then just ask yourself, wow, I'm present again. What a gift. What am I magnetizing into my reality right now with my thoughts, my words, my feelings, and my magnetic frequency? This is the only game in town. You cannot overdo it. The thing is that the external world of media and television and governments and this and that, they're set up to perfectly keep you out of doing this. So you want to create the most magnificent reality? Commit to coming back. I mean, first off, as I talked about earlier, consciously creating your day first thing while your head's still on the pillow. If you do not do that, your thoughts will run your life for you, and you will drag the past into your present reality over and over and over and over. It doesn't mean that you're not conscious and you're not awake and you're doing great things. But if you do not see this program and take the steps to override it and consciously be creating your reality, as many moments throughout the day as possible, then it's just going to run on automatic pilot. So what is the gift here? What is that judgment, emotion, or reaction teaching me? Because I can feel it. I just felt a trigger. And when you learn to be able to feel the frequency of a judgment, a shameful thought, guilt, or anything less than love, and you commit to going, wow, I just had one. Let me thank that for showing me that gift. And let me reset my frequency right now. And come back and rinse and repeat that over and over and over. Everything in your life and your reality and relationships will shift for the better. I think that's it right there.
That's awesome. I love the oh, my elbow just hit the desk there. I love when you hit the singing bowl. And for those of you who are journeying, yeah, I love that thing. And for those of you who are journeying with this, that is something Jeff does even in our private, exchanges and conversations. That's, yeah, it's awesome. He does that in his voice messages too. I get voice messages from him, and they conclude with that, which always brings a smile to my face. And yeah, I just want to thank you again for the way that you framed all of that. And, for people who are just now discovering who you are, and maybe they've heard portions of these techniques and these approaches from different people, I cannot say enough of the importance of reconciling the difference between intellectualizing something and embodying it. So the way that we have been trained and raised and educated and indoctrinated, we, as you have, you've pointed out, Jeff, the media and the television, and it's really important that we understand that nothing in this world is happening by random chance or accident. I hope that triggers people. If you're listening to this, watch the trigger then, as Jeff was saying. Trace the trigger like a detective. Where does that come from? Nothing in this world is random. Nothing in this world is accidental. It is all by design. The question is, are you consciously designing your life the way you desire it? Or is your life being designed, directed, and produced by an outside team of experts at manipulating the stream of energy? This, I can't say that enough. There's look, we understand this. We all know that there are some really incredible, mind-boggling achievements that humanity has created. There is inspiring successes on a multitude of levels in all culture. But think about this for a moment. If all of these mind-boggling achievements and creations can occur in an inverted reality, where the key to keeping everybody imprisoned is to ensure that they believe that they are limited in the scope of the world they're living in, and that they are dependent on other people that are quote unquote leaders telling them what to do. If that's what you believe, which most of humanity does believe that, and you look at what's been created, now step back and go, what the fuck can we create when we're embodying an unlimited divine essence? What can we create? What can we create and imagine into existence when we know that there's no limitation to A, what we can imagine, and B, what we can birth into physical reality? And you've talked about this. You mentioned about the reality that, once people begin to really embodying this in day-to-day, activities consciously, you're going to be brought into a world that you've been told is make believe. You're going to be brought into a world of pure divine magic that would make some of the greatest CGI specialists in the film industry envious. And it's serious, but it's fun. But I'm being serious because of how much fun it is. And yet we're told to take life really serious. Well, guess what? That shit don't work. It didn't work. It never has worked in spite of the accomplishments. And I know this personally from firsthand experience. So part of that reversal of indoctrination and what you've shared so far, Jeff, which is just incredible, it takes a level of commitment. It takes diligence, and it takes returning oneself to the space and place and state of awareness of that of a joyous child who looks upon all of the world in wonderment, not knowing what they're looking at, but just going, wow. And the playful imagination of children who are creating alternative realities until some authority figure says, get your fucking head out of the clouds. It's time to get to school. It's time to get your good grades. It's time to get a job. You know, stop daydreaming. Let us honor those beautiful souls who thought they were doing us good, but simply did not know any better. And as I've said before in other episodes, and I've written and spoken about this before, I don't often use quotes from other people, but Maya Angelou's quote, when you know better, you do better. We don't have any more excuses because we know better. So it is time that as New Earth leaders, we embody the true beauty of who and what we are, and we do better, one moment and one day at a time. Be present in the thoughts that are coming through your field of energy. Acknowledge the growth of others. Please do not limit other people's desires for growth just because you're not there yet in embodying your own personal unlimited ideas of growth. We're all at different phases and stages of this journey. So if you are having challenges with putting a lot of what Jeff has said to use, well, first and foremost, reach out to Jeff and engage in a mentorship journey with him. Your soul will thank you for it. But if that's not feasible for you right now, and you're still having a hard time stretching into the essence of what we're sharing and what other guests have shared on the New Earth Leaders podcast, then here's the one thing you can do as a New Earth leader. Get the fuck out of everyone else's way. Don't impede other people's path to love, joy, happiness, pleasure, and fulfillment. Cheer them on, even if you think your life sucks. Because the more you can cheer on other people growing, the faster you'll be able to look inward and begin not only A, cheering yourself on, but B, doing something that most human beings were never, ever taught to do. And that is to embody one of the key characteristics of the divine feminine wisdom: receptivity. Receive the acknowledgments of others, receive the compliments of others, receive the guidance and mentorship. Because the more you can receive, the more excitement your life will have. The more you can cheer on other people and celebrate and acknowledge them, the more joy and excitement you will feel. And as Jeff was saying, it doesn't get much more expansive than excitement. So I want to conclude this incredible journey with you, Jeff, by building on the excitement and the joy and the wonderment of playing the game of consciousness. You've said a lot of really, really amazing things in this journey. One of which is when you wake up in the morning, you just love all those trillions of cells in your body. What are some things that you can share with the listeners of the podcast as we wrap up this episode that can bring additional excitement or expand and build and amplify the existing excitement that people have in their lives right now?
Thank you for everything that you just shared. That was deep. That's why I love these conversations. Anybody that's still listening to this right now, they're probably like I was when I heard my mentor speak 20 years ago, and I'm like, that sounds really good. That sounds really good. That sounds really good. And I used to go out and buy every spiritual book, all the top bestsellers, and me and my girlfriend at the time had the same books, and we're like, wow, that's really good. Hey, did you buy the next book? And all this information was going in on top of a program that was running underneath that nobody in any of those books had taught me how to clear. And I'm not saying none of the books are great. Everybody brings their piece, but information is not that valuable unless we put it into practice. So I want to finish up what I have to say with two really simple invitations. One we touched on. If you can make what is the gift here your number one mantra, write it down on a piece of paper, carry it in your hand. I have some of my people that I journey with, they put it on a bracelet and they wear it and they look at it. And then they set the alarms on their phone to go off 20 times a day. You might think that's a big deal. Really? That's a big deal? You're running 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are distracting you. It's time to take our power back from the heart. And so if you get nothing else out of this talk other than hanging a poster in your living room, above your bed, and in your bathroom, on your bathroom mirror, what is the gift here? Just opening that up for your mind to look at over and over and over will change everything in your reality, because it will take you out of being a justified automatic reactor, and it will put you in the driver's seat of, okay, I'm creating my reality. This is a real trip, this journey that we're on. And if I shift into what is this trying to teach me in every moment, I am no longer in judgment or resistance, and I just cleared 80 to 90% of funky energy from my body, from my past. And it also affects the collective in such a beautiful way, because you're it, you're everything. So what is the gift here? If people just asked that 10 times a day, it would change everything in their reality. Whether or not you followed everything else that I shared. Number two, what you just beautifully brought up, Peter, playfulness. Playfulness. Little children do not think about anything other than imagination and playfulness for the most part, until that gets stolen from them through school and religion and their parents' programs. Get playful every day. Set your intention while you're laying in bed that today is going to be one of the most playful, amazing days ever. Why? Because I'm creating it. You don't hope that it's going to be. Hope is weak. Wishing is weak. You intend. By the power in me, I'm going to be playful today. And anytime that I'm not, if I feel a frequency that's not playful, I'm going to stop and go, oh, okay, what's this trying to show me? What's the gift here? And if you did nothing more than just do that every day, and you set up a system like the book teaches you how to do, that's it. It's the only game in town. And that is our invitation. It's always been our invitation, because we are unlimited creative beings. And that word unlimited is not understood enough. It's not investigated enough, because there's so many distractions. I write that word down in capital letters. I put it everywhere. I am unlimited. Capital I, capital A, capital M, capital unlimited. I am unlimited. Do I believe that? Do I express that? Do I own that? And it's not from a place of being egotistical or having any power over anybody. It's our birthright. It's who we are. We are so unlimited. It's mind-blowing. And to even get a little piece of that and to be able to put that into play every single day with these tools of what is the gift here? Am I being playful? Am I being playful like a little child? Little children don't have limitations. They fly on rocket ships and they hang out with the dragonflies and the butterflies and they go into other worlds because those other worlds exist. There are no limitations. So, note to self.
And when in doubt, just get those 5 words tattooed on your head. Man, that had me laughing, man. I had to put myself on mute when you were saying that. Where do you put what is the gift here? Well, you can write it on the notes, you can write it on the piece of paper, put it in your computer, tattoo it on your forehead in reverse. So when you look in the mirror, what is the gift here? Yeah, it's
and make sure it's in reverse. Otherwise, every time you go to look in the mirror, it's just not going to work. So having fun is really key. And I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, always appreciate getting together with you because it's always like this. It's always fun. It's always insightful. I intend that it has been for people that listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I know nothing. I'm doing my absolute best to track the frequency of my thoughts and my words and my emotion in every moment. And I've trained myself to know if I'm not feeling loving and grateful. And this isn't to say that you walk around with a fake mask on every day going, I'm so grateful. No, you feeling is healing, but feeling is everything. And knowing if you've still got a wound or a judgment or a trigger or something, to go right into it right now. Don't cover it up. Don't cover it up with alcohol or scrolling more on, social media or whatever. Go into it, because the beauty of it is, again, your soul will bring that back to you over and over and over and over until you get it, because your soul is unconditionally loving. And the whole journey is to wake up to your magnificence, to our magnificence, our unlimited potential, and to be freaking excited and goofy and playful and childish. Hugely. Being an adult that's a trap. I'm actually every day reversing aging. Aging is a trap. It's a spell. I talk to my cells every day over and over and over, and I love on them. And I get back to being playful like a little child. And some days are better than others. Yeah, I get pissed off. I get triggered. But as soon as I do, I'm like, boom, perfect. That either tells me one of two things. I'm still holding something I haven't cleared, or I've been pushing a little bit too hard, whether it's on the computer to get something done or whatever. And now my body's going, dude, you're in resistance. Take a break. For God's sake, go out and get playful and have some fun. Go put your feet on the earth. Go hang out with the animals. Play some music. It's all about tracking that frequency and becoming so aware of when you start to step out of love and gratitude and playfulness, that you've got a system built in that goes, okay, what are my tools? All right, what's the gift here? All right, take some breaths, love on myself, and smile. Because if this was my last day on the planet today, I want to be playful and in gratitude for this journey. Yeah.
Well, as always, beautifully articulated. The passion, the genuineness, the authenticity. I mean, these are all words and terms that I think everybody's familiar with, but I go back to, again, the difference between intellectualizing something and embodying it. And I do want to point something out that I've said on some of the other episodes, and for people who are heard this, great. It's just going to be a nice reminder for people who are discovering this podcast and this incredible New Earth leader and Jeff Cloud. That's great. And this will be the first time you hear it. But I want to add something to what you were saying, Jeff, about, and we briefly mentioned this earlier, embodying self-love, self-empowerment, and self-governance, being consciously aware, that does not mean you're immediately devoid of human experiences. I find myself getting triggered at times. I watch my thoughts diligently. Here's one of the things that they don't really teach you about in a lot of courses and a lot of books. How do you measure that which is impossible to measure? Meaning, how do you measure your inner spiritual journey? One of my previous guests, Zion DeCastro, spoke about this, and this is where we sort of expanded on it. I want to bring it into this episode, and that is one way to measure your progress in consciousness. There's a lot of ways to do this. This is one way, is shaving time. Meaning, if you get triggered, that might bring up a cascade of thoughts from the ego going, oh, I thought I cleared that trauma. I did all my inner shadow work. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not as conscious as I thought I was. I just offended somebody. I just hurt somebody's feelings, said something I shouldn't have said. And all of a sudden, you're like, I fell off the proverbial wagon. Oh, I've got to go back and do more work. Now, if that happens and you catch it and you recognize it and you engage in the processes that Jeff has shared, or you engage in the processes that some of the other guests have shared, what does that say? What does that do? Well, here's what it is. Here's what shaving time is. The world-class Olympic level sprinters and marathon runners gauge their progress by fractions of seconds. Shaving off their best time can sometimes be the difference between coming in 5th place and winning a gold medal. Now, we're talking fractions of seconds here. So when you find yourself in a state of dismay, you're feeling guilt, self-abuse and thoughts, you catch it, recognize it, do the work to forgive yourself, and then contrast it to where you may have been a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years or longer. In another part of your life, that same trigger may have taken you years to process and get over. You may have stayed pissed off for days, weeks on end, and now it's something that happens within a few minutes, or it takes you a day to clear out the field and you're back to your higher vibrational self. That's fucking monumental, multi-dimensional progress in real time. That's the set. You celebrate that. Yeah, it might feel a little wonky because you got triggered, but if you can recognize how far you've come from where you once were, give yourself a hug and a high five, go celebrate. And that's part of this process of however you are called and inspired to show up and express your unique and distinct expression of a new earth leader. You may not be in the public eye. Fine, you don't need to be. You may have what some people call a traditional 9 to 5. That's fine. But it's the way you show up and emit your frequency and vibration. It's the way you acknowledge and celebrate yourself and acknowledge and celebrate others. So I'm saying all of this because part of this journey on these episodes is to provide you divinely timed expressions and reflections and mirroring so that you can look within your own soul and honor the beautiful being that you are. No matter where you might think you are on the path of consciousness, whatever. The fact you're even listening and journeying with Jeff and myself and other guests on a New Earth Leaders podcast, you rest assured, as call this what it is, a judgment or comparison, but you're much further along than most human beings because you're able to tune in to a very specific frequency and vibration that's being emitted from this podcast. And you're journeying and you're listening and you're feeling into it. This isn't about being better than other people, but it's about being the way shower in your personal life so that you can be a reflection and a timely inspiration to others. And as I said earlier, the days of suffering and isolation, the days of suffering, period. the days of thinking you're going to succeed in obscurity, or the days of thinking you got to pay your dues to get ahead, that is in the rearview mirror of your past and humanity's past, even if it looks like it's showing up for other people. So this is what this is all about. You know, it's about taking conscious responsibility for your emotions and feeling into things and sharing your feelings with people you trust, so that you're rewriting the code that is your life journey and your life story. So Jeff, I want to say thank you again, not only just for being a part of the New Earth Leaders podcast. Thank you for being one of my dear friends and one of my mentors. I mean, there was a point in my journey where I wondered, I'm like, how the fuck does all these people have mentors? Where's my mentors? And then all of a sudden, as I began doing more and more work, fast forward 10, 15 years later, all of a sudden, I'm surrounded and reflected by incredible, beautiful souls who have served as divinely timed mentors from my personal journey. And I want to thank you for that. And equally so, I want to thank you for the way that you show up as a reflection and a mentor to so many beautiful souls around the world who are realizing that there is a incredible, unlimited world of imagination and creation just waiting to be unlocked and opened up. So for people who are ready to buy your book, Waking Up in the Dream, for people who are feeling called to explore journeying with you, where can they go to get more information and to engage with you beyond just the journey in this podcast?
First of all, thank you for everything you just shared. It was deep, and you are my mentor. When we can get to the point where we realize that every single person is our teacher, especially if we have a judgment or a trigger or something about them, then the whole dream shifts, because now it's coming from the heart and coming back to, one of the most powerful statements or mantras I've ever learned. What is the gift here? What is this trying to show me? If people adopted that's basically 100% ownership. Now I'm responsible for my emotions, and nobody's doing anything to me. No more of this blame judgment game. It removes judgment, and that's key. So thank you for everything you shared. Thank you for the kind words. I'm honored always to journey with you. And if people want to connect with me, they can go to my website, Portal to Awakening, portal2awakening.com. The book's there. There's information about going on the 30-day journey with me one-on-one. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Jeff9Cloud. So it's Jeff and then the number 9 Cloud. And also all of my Facebook lives, which I do my best to do 2 every week on Facebook. All the replays are on my YouTube channel. So all this stuff has gone over and over and over, and it's all free on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/portal2awakening. So Portal to Awakening is the link for the website and the YouTube channel. And, if you have any questions, reach out. This is why we're all here. We're uplifting each other, and we're all mirrors for each other. And I'm just super, super honored to get to come and do this. There's no words. So thank you. Thank you, brother.
You're so very welcome, man. Thank you again for just dropping wisdom at the level that you do, and the coherency and making it palatable for people. Like, it's practical, because what else can it possibly be if it's going to be put to use? It's practical, and it's profound and powerful. So thank you again. And as I've said before, and talked about in the introduction of the episode, all of the places you can find Jeff, he just described, that information is also in the description on wherever you found this particular episode. I don't know how, what platform you're streaming it from. You maybe were sent a link from somebody and said, hey, you got to check this out. Again, just be sure to reach out connect with Jeff, or at the very least, go to the YouTube channel, go to the Facebook page. He is just every single week sharing this wisdom on different levels. And I want to just, for everybody who's, taking notes, or maybe you're just tuning into this particular portion of the episode. So Jeff covered so much, but one of the things I want to leave everybody with, number one, is the 5 words that can profoundly transform the level of experience and joy in your life. And that is, what is the gift here? Then we have the 3 keys to moving beyond the 3D matrix. Number 1 is consciously engage in deep inner healing. And there's a lot of levels to that, of course, as you heard. 2, look at your belief system and realize it is not even yours. So you may have achieved a lot of success in your life based on certain ideologies and beliefs, and that's great. But for a lot of people right now in the world, you're reaching a point where what you have been doing, even if it was amazing, you're not in resonance with it anymore. That's a clear sign that regardless of the success and the good work you've done in your journey to this point, you were achieving it in spite of the beliefs that are not aligned with your true essence. So when you're finding yourself out of resonance with things in your life, that is the proverbial wake-up call. So look at your belief systems and realize it is not even yours. And step number 3, or the 3 essential of the keys, the third one is consciously create your reality by consciously being aware of the frequency and vibration that you are holding. This goes back to another thing that Jeff said. We are literally magnets of energy. We attract. If you don't like what's showing up in your world, allow yourself to discover what belief, what behavior, what energy am I operating from that is bringing this into my world, and then get to work with undoing that. And if you have a lot of goodness and a lot of joy and pleasure and love and excitement and fulfilling experiences that are coming into your life, well, get ready for that to just expand exponentially, because you obviously have been doing what Jeff's talking about, and you are being who you truly desire to be. And as a result, your reality looks like, for other people to say, well, it looks like you're living your dream. And you're like, yeah, because I woke up in the dream. And now I'm a conscious creator. I'm a conscious creatrix. I'm harmonizing, I'm balancing, and I'm illuminating and creating from my divine feminine and divine masculine energies. I'm in tune with the divine creative life force energy that flows into and through all of life. I am in harmony with the divine mother. I'm in harmony with my higher self. What else is there? Be that and get ready to receive a reality that you couldn't have even imagined a short time ago. With that being said, I want to thank Jeff. Thank you again for journeying with me. And I want to thank everybody who has taken the time to journey with us in this episode. Your energy, your presence, your essence is definitely felt. And I want to thank all of you for what you're doing out there in the world to express and reflect what a new earth leader really is. And with that in mind, on behalf of Jeff, I want to send you, your families, and your creations a lot of abundance, love, gratitude, support, and prosperous blessings. And I look forward to having you journey with me on the next episode of the New Earth Leaders Podcast.